Geeks and Gamers? It's your boy Q
and QMG.
And you already know we're here to bring you guys into the Qniverse, where we talk to you guys about everything geeky, gamey, and nerdy. And it's another beautiful Sunday. Can we get a round of applause? We are back.
We are back. What up, D-Man? What up, Vaughn?
Yeah, what's up, geeks and gamers? Almost stuttering right there. It's another beautiful Sunday.
Yes.
Last week we talked about, let's go ahead and straight hop right into it. Last week we talked about video games, all our base and favorite systems of all time. But today, I think we would go ahead and switch it on up. Just like my hoodie, switching it up. We're going to switch it on up. Today, we're going to be talking about Marvel and DC and who's better. But we're not just going to pick definitive sides. We're going to sit here and talk about different aspects of each and see which one stacks up who's better.
In each other's
own opinion. Yeah, so you already know. You guys can chime in, give your 2 cents, give your opinions, and give your thoughts. This is you guys' podcast, and without our geeks and gamers, we would not be here doing what we do.
Not at all.
So,
not
QMG.
First, let's go ahead and address, because we got some more people that came in. We got, what's up, Dre? What up, Dre? What's up, Quato? What's up? Because I know you watching that. What's up? You know, we talking about, Now, there was no, I know it might have seemed like there was some technical difficulties, but there were not. But yeah, we just dropping into the Qniverse. So, yeah, like you said, we're going to be talking about Marvel versus DC. And in every facet, what's better, what isn't better, who got it bad, who don't got it bad, and just who is the best around that no one's going to knock them down. So, Q, do you want to start off? Do you want to start off with the first category on how we're going to be critiquing them in our own opinion? What up, Jared?
Yeah, we're just gonna go down the different line of categories in multimedia and comic books and all these other forms and mediums that these two juggernauts of comic book aficionado lifestyle corporations have going on. And I guess to start it off with, what better way to start it off than Marvel or DC, QMG, who has the best heroes? And I'll let you start it off.
Who has the best heroes of Marvel and DC? Well, that is... Hey, what up, Jerris? What up?
Jerris, appreciate you tuning in. What up, JB?
What's Mama? What's up, Mama? See you up in the chat. But yeah, with the best heroes. Now, Marvel most certainly has two of the biggest bangers in all of media in terms of heroes. Outside these characters transcends comics, video games, regular television, all of 9 yards. And those two entities are, of course, Spider-Man and the X-Men. Those are the top-tierest of top-tier characters, heroes that Marvel has ever created. Their impact culturally, just culturally and just personally, are unmatched. Literally, in my opinion, you can literally just follow those two entities from Marvel and be set on your love for Marvel. Now, of course, you got your Avengers, you got your Guardians of the Galaxy, your Fantastic Four, and they're good in their own right. But when you think of Marvel, you're primarily, and especially when you're thinking of Marvel going back,
appreciate you tuning in, bro.
15, 20 years, you're majority thinking of the X-Men and Spider-Man. And yes, in recent years, you have the Avengers, in their movies, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then, you got the Fantastic Four, for purists, and the Defenders and Champions. People there's fans of those groups. But primarily, the X-Men and Spider-Man stand alone as far as, just generally A+ heroes, maybe A if you're not all that into them. But those are just two entities, because you can make strong arguments for why the Avengers suck. You can make strong arguments for why the Guardians of the Galaxy suck. For why the Fantastic Four suck. You can make all strong arguments for them. But with DC, can't really do that, because you got Superman diehards that range in the millions. You got Batman diehards who just in the trillions, and there's not even that many people on Earth. So you know what I'm saying? You got Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash. God dang, you got Martian Manhunter, who might not be as big as those other ones, but definitely has a high number. Aquaman. The Aquaman stands are definitely eating now because of the movie, and they're definitely getting validations for their liking of them. Robin, the Teen Titans as a whole, Black Canary stands, shout outs to Birds of Prey. Then they're getting fed, and they're all great characters who've either always been in the limelight, you've always seen their greatness, and then you have the ones that have always been great but not have a platform, but now they have had a platform, so everyone knows them, and not only to add that all of these heroes stand for something incredible and something inspirational. Superman being the ultimate immigrant, being this godlike creature from a godlike alien from another planet who, despite every temptations and impulse that might arise in other people, he still chooses to fight for humanity and things and people that are weaker than him. Not caring about what other people says, doing it willingly. You got Batman, the quote unquote regular guy who stands up to gods, and even though that's kind of played out more or less because of recent events, it's still inspirational to a lot of people, and that can't be denied. Wonder Woman, being a person that fights for peace and love, but also laying the smackdown when need be, teaching an entity of truth and justice. Then you got Flash.
So are you saying that DC has better heroes?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to illustrate. That DC has the better heroes, while Spider-Man and the X-Men are definitely they're definitely the GOATs. It's just really them that you can make that consistent argument for. I don't believe that any other Marvel team really has a stronger argument of being better than the majority of DC heroes. So that is my opinion.
Well, if I had to choose, I'd definitely go with Marvel has the better heroes, not only through their story arcs, but through their quote-unquote popularity in society. Now, mind you, Superman and Batman are arguably the two greatest heroes, most loved heroes of all time. Wonder Woman not as big as Superman and Batman, like tiers above. But just for the simple fact that the X-Men are a foreshadowing or a mirror image of the civil rights movement with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King is amazing in itself. And don't even get me started. My boy Spider-Man is the titular superhero who does right and tries to do everything, because with great power comes great responsibility. We also have Deadpool, who's one of the most hugely cultural icon characters in the last 20 years.
Okay, but how are we quantifying this? You said which ones are better, not which ones are more popular.
But that goes into why they're better.
No, because popularity.
Or you just want to talk, okay, the first topic can be just through their own medium. So, okay. Well,
which one are the better, more has the most heroic impact? Not monetarily, because there can be an argument that, especially for the past 10 years, every superhero, more or less, are extremely popular, because every time that they are put on the big screen, they generate millions.
Okay, well, I think Marvel still, I think their characters are cooler in the positions they hold. Like Thor, I feel like he's a great character.
But cooler and better and popular.
Are we talking? No. We're talking about better. Like, who has the better heroes overall? Like, just right now, we're talking about better heroes.
Okay, and on the point, and on your metrics of how are you quantifying better?
Better as in like coolness, heroics.
Okay, well, coolness,
style, personality.
Okay, and what? Give me some examples.
Like just Deadpool as a character, Wolverine as a character, Magneto as a character.
What factors of that are you inquiring that they're
Magneto? His intentions, the way he carries himself, how he does things as the character.
So it's like, so what are he?
Being more of a. At first, he was a pure villain for his intentions early, but as time progressed, he became more of a anti-hero, more of a Malcolm X-esque hero, as opposed to DC characters who a lot of times are titular one-dimensional. Let me finish. I'm giving my opinion.
Yeah.
A lot of them are one-dimensional, and then when they do have something that came, like say in the Rebirth, a lot of their stories were revamped, and a lot of their stories were done in a way that was more dynamic, but people frowned upon it. And when New 52 came back, they retconned all that and gave them more linear storyline elements, like more akin to their original one.
You reversed it, but
you know what I mean.
But okay, I guess I see. But my counterpoint to that is that I don't know how those interpretations of necessitates it being better because Magneto vaguely, because it's not just Malcolm X that Magneto's based upon. He's based upon a lot of
and dictators as well.
Yeah, but it's based off a lot of those factors, and then but a lot of those factors do wear thin in the hands of a majority of comic book writers. Deadpool. I mean, I'm the first to say that there are very good Deadpool runs where he's not just a walking fourth wall breaking one-dimensional joke. There's a lot of layers to his characters, but I don't think that necessarily makes him a better character than anybody on DC, because you got a character like Booster Gold who is not. He has
actually, for everyone who doesn't know Booster Gold's storyline, go look it up. I don't even want to spoil it. It's a really good origin story.
But yeah, but with Booster Gold, he's not a fourth wall breaking character. He doesn't break the fourth wall, but he's definitely a Tears of a Clown type character like a Deadpool, and I feel like he accomplishes his job a little bit better than Deadpool simply because the writers allow that to be more prevalent. Some current characters notwithstanding, and then one-dimensional. That's completely not true. A lot of these, like if you're going to go off of the ultra specific Super Friends cartoon, then I can guess you can try to say,
hey, the Legion of Doom was called in there. Toy Man.
If you're going to go off of the ultra specific the Super Friends, then I guess you can say that because it was created in a time where there was no other cartoon or anything.
No, I can say that because I love the Justice League animated series.
I'm talking about Super. I'm speaking specifically on Super Friends being you said the DC characters. Yes, and that's not true because there's a lot of dimensions to these characters. Superman is constantly going through a conflict of mind of if he's actually helping the world, despite him being such an overwhelming force for good. Is that actually going to save humanity in the end, or is it just going to continue a cycle of violence and destruction that will only temporarily be founded?
And so are the X-Men as well. I mean, a team who daily, day in and day out, have a teacher who
your argument was that the DC characters are one-dimensional, and I would argue that a lot of the X-Men arcs, if I'm being honest, there are times where they don't really play up to that because they rest on the laurels of people already being familiar with it, so they might touch on it once or twice to the point that before this current relaunch, it was kind of not taken. It was kind of just played as a running joke that we're supposed to do this, but it really doesn't amount to anything, which devalues the message. It's the same thing with Spider-Man. So many times, writers in recent years have been so focused on reducing Spider-Man to his smallest variable of just being down on his luck young adult. Even though he's meant to be like a 30-year-old, it kind of wears thin on the character and it doesn't make him compelling. With DC, you have these monumental god-like characters who still have humanizing moments of self-doubt and sometimes going through self-reflection that it enhances the choices that they make for the common good. When Wonder Woman is coming to terms with maybe she has to be more violent to be a better force for good and complete her mission, or you have Batman recluding him, becoming a recluse because he thinks that
is he not?
Becoming
not a recluse.
I mean, the point is when he goes through that, when it's well written, it's very compelling, and then he has to come to the realization that he shouldn't be the recluse because he's more effective as Batman when he has his supporting cast around him. And then characters like the Flash, who has to constantly don't let the television show confuse you. He definitely takes time travel and messing around with it very seriously. He's not just doing it willy-nilly or doing it very, callously. Like, yes, people think of Flashpoint because of the more recent story arc, but before that, he was Barry Allen and Wally West were very cognitive of consequences.
And that's my point. I think that DC takes it to a positive scale. Now, not necessarily always doing positive action, but always leaning towards the weight of positivity. Whereas I see Marvel, they deal with a lot of more characters, definitely dealing with all of that power, but still having a natural human compass as far as being untrustworthy of people that's shown them love or trust, being skeptical of their own self-worth, being skeptical of their own powers to save the world, and actually doing not negative things, but doing human things as far as making secret organizations.
And DC has done that too. DC has absolutely created
but not just that, but not having the best outcome come after that.
And DC has done that too. Batman's OMAC satellite was
only Batman,
but no, because the impetus for that was because the Justice League were mind wiping their villains because they would learn secrets about them,
and the Illuminati were mind wiping their heroes.
And what do you think? And they mind wiped Batman, the biggest hero, which caused him to create OMAC, which in turn created a situation where they nano machines were taking over humans to wipe out all superpowered people on the planet,
and their mind wiping inadvertently led to World War Hulk.
But that's not the point of what crazy thing happened. If it's compelling or not, or more importantly, if a lesson was learned. Because a lot of these things that you're naming, there was no lesson learned from it. None of these characters.
And that's what I'm saying.
But that's what I'm saying.
No, I'm not. It is in person's opinion. I'm saying that always the positive approach or the positive ending is not always. In human life, some things happen that are negative or positive and never get resolved. And I feel like sometimes, I'm just saying my opinion, and I feel sometimes that makes more of a realistic and cooler approach than just going with the positive ending. But before we get deeper into it, for everyone just tuning in, the conversation today is DC Marvel, who's better, but we're doing different aspects as far as who has the better movies, who has the better comics, who has the cooler characters, and so on and so forth. But as I was saying, I just feel like Marvel definitely not taking anything from DC, but from the stories I've read on both sides, it just always seems like there's characters who have this stitch and they stick with this stitch. And for Marvel, from what I've read, or what I've seen, there's been a lot of chances that they took and risks that they've taken, and it feels like it made the characters feel more real and cooler to me personally.
I'm not letting you get off on like that. None of the stuff that if we're keeping it a buck for everybody who's read it, none of the times Marvel has done that has paid off in the long run. Because
I'm talking about for me.
I understand. I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that if you're going to try to you, I will concede that. But when we're trying to compare, it's not. There's no competition because there was no when you're making a story, there has to be a lesson learned and character growth.
That is not true.
A good story has to have.
Not true. A story can have a cliffhanger. A story can have no lesson learned. It's just depending on who makes it. I can make a story that doesn't have any. If it's bad, it's bad, but it can still be a story.
Okay, if you're going to get specific, I guess but that's not the point while we're making. I'm not saying specifically. Obviously, anybody can make a story that's one sentence, but a good story, a compelling story, especially when you're dealing with superheroes. It needs to have a lesson being learned and character growth for you to be drawn into these characters and take them seriously. All the stuff you mentioned about the Illuminati and World War Hulk and all of these mind wipes, it never amounted to anything substantial because none of these characters grew from it.
But do anything ever truly is established when we have retcons and whole stuff wiped from existence?
But that's not the point because all of that stuff is a microcosm of them not trying to grow them. Yes, anybody can say, well, the retcons and all of that, but think about it like this. If you end the story well enough where the characters grow and it looks like something else will be developed, then you don't have to reset anything before that because there's no need. This whole reboots and retcons are products of failures in the story where they feel like something needed to be fixed. That's the whole point of retcons and reboots, a missed opportunity or a failed experiment. When you mention something like World War Hulk, Iron Man didn't change as a character. Mr. Fantastic didn't change as a character. Professor X, who was a part of the Illuminati, was barely featured in the story, and they still presented the Hulk like he was the bad guy, even though he was the one that was accosted. When you talk about the mind wipes, they didn't resolve it in any meaningful manner. They actually ended it with everybody dying and then restart the universe where it was even the situation was had to be downplayed.
But see, that's where it comes into a lot of interpretation because, as you said, in World War Hulk, they painted him as the bad guy. That's what you said, but I didn't interpret it as that. I interpreted it as your own transgressions, your own bad judgment, your own bad decisions coming back as a manifestation. And it was the Hulk. For what they did to him, he came back and he was the manifestation of their own transgressions as the Illuminati, right in their face, and they couldn't do nothing to stop it.
But again, like I told you that, and I mentioned this previously, sometimes going up for the interpretation, sometimes it's the intent of the writer, and sometimes it isn't. And with the intention of World War Hulk, that's a very compelling thing you said, but that was not the intention.
Well, I disagree that even if because there's been a lot of ideas stemmed from people who had a certain idea on their form of art. And if somebody pulls something from that, you can't say that wasn't the reason because somebody pulled something from it.
I mean, in certain situations, yes, that is correct. But in some cases, when the creator tells you their intention and you got something completely different from it, then there is a failure of communication on the part of the writer, and that is what happens with the majority of these books. But to go back to my point about what you were saying as far as their mistakes, defining them in a manner that's cool. Just because you don't have a happy ending for your story doesn't make anything compelling if there's no payoff.
Oh no, not every time. I agree.
But that is with Marvel. Marvel hasn't had a happy ending to one of their events that didn't lead into something more catastrophic since before 2003. And when you do it consistently like that, it becomes less of an, oh wow, this is subversive, or oh wow, this is adding a human element, to now it's becoming something unrealistic, and to the point where these heroes, these not parodies or amalgamations, but the blueprint of these heroes are just non-existent at this point. When you feel the need to turn Captain America into a Nazi, to white-splain why white supremacy is bad, that's a huge failure on communication's part. Whereas take something like DC, and when they do arcs like that, they at least are mindful that they have to present it in a way where they're not saying that these characters, all like this iteration, like Flashpoint or Injustice, they understood that they had to have the traditional characters stand next to these characters to illustrate that yes, these traditional characters have fears or ideas of these, but there's a line that they won't cross, but also acknowledging that thought exists. Sometimes it's better to say that this could happen and present it so real, but also show that the opposite can happen. You never want to focus on, and I've said this before, you never want to tell the audience this story can only go one way, and that is the only way. You have to.
But you just said.
Yeah, I know.
You just said if the author has this idea,
yeah, but I didn't
want, then how that is contradictory to what you just said. Of them saying it can only go this way.
But let me finish, because you understand when you hear my whole thought. Yes, you just finished my point by saying that, by bringing that up, because yes, writers will have their one intention of how they want to go. And sometimes it does help the story because they're not trying to tell a larger story. If you're like Joker, if you're trying to tell one story with one character and not continue with it, having a specific vision you want to follow, that's not necessarily up for interpretation. Or if you do have a singular story arc that's only going in one direction, then yes, having a specific vision with specific interpretations is fine. But if you're doing a large scaling story that affects all of these characters and it can affect so many things that you have to be mindful of multiple interpretations. You can't keep them in cut and dry scenarios where all of the superheroes are technically villains and there's no lesson learned because after everything,
and vice versa, you can't keep them in the same eras where all the superheroes are titular heroes.
But I'm telling you that DC doesn't do that.
And it comes down to personal preference, because just as much as DC has had characters who are people who really don't care for them, just as much as Marvel has. And I just feel like, to me personally, the Marvel heroes have a certain level of depth and humanism and realism that I feel like even with the superior writing of DC, which we'll get into that as the next topic, I feel like the characters aren't as well fleshed out or really delved into, and they stick to their shtick. When I don't feel like they come out of their zone as much as I feel like the Marvel characters has, and in consequence, I feel like maybe the DC's part, writing is better for the storylines, not as much as the characters, and I feel vice versa as well, as the Marvel characters are wrote better, but the stories aren't wrote, and in turn it makes it look like DC has the better heroes, but I don't feel like the heroes are as deep and delved into. And I feel like the larger than life characters, as far as your Wonder Womans, your Supermans, your Flashes, get more delved into their powers than as far as their own mindset about how stuff is going and how their life is panning out with everything that they've done. It's more diving into their own personal abilities and learning more about their abilities than the Flash focuses on what he's done and how he's done it and paying penance for all the mistakes he's made and stuff like that, which I feel like Marvel does a lot more in their story arcs and their storylines. Not so much the movies. The MCU's been pretty iffy with that. But
Marvel characters, I mean, this is going to be my last word on it because we definitely got to move on. But the Marvel characters rarely, if ever, do that. They don't reflect, or not anymore at least. Not in recent memory have they done that. Every decision they make is always justified with garbage reasoning. And yes, while it might be a quote-unquote human or realistic, however you want to quantify it by our category status, as a decision, it rarely ever is the logical one. It seems like it's only being done to tick off the box of being, oh, it's human by design, but it's not. And I would rather have a sincere gesture of extreme positivity, something to strive for, the ideal to strive for, than a needlessly pragmatic and needlessly, negative outlook that could have been avoided if actual thought was put into it. But moving on, Q thinks Marvel, to wrap it all up, Q thinks Marvel has the better characters. I believe DC has the better characters.
Well, moving on, we're going to say movies for last. I guess we can go straight into it, even though we kind of alluded to it. Who has the better comic story? And I think we both agree on this one. I think DC has the better comics, and I guess I'll just start off saying why. Like I said, I think the writers who were brought to do a lot of the DC storylines, even the ones that aren't a part of the natural continuity, like Red Sun was one of my favorites. I loved Red Sun. I loved Dark Knight Returns. Some of the most iconic ones are some of my favorites. The Killing Joke was awesome.
We got some comics, by the way. We got Jared saying he's with Marvel, and you got Tarvin saying DC killing the animated.
We're gonna get into that.
But what was you saying?
Yeah, I was just saying that I think DC definitely fleshed out a lot of storylines. That, once again, going back to the previous comment, that could put a lot of generic characters in really strong roles. And if that's any indication, they made Booster Gold cool with his storyline, and Booster Gold is really a generic character, and they made him cool. So I think anybody's tasked to do a lot with the DC is really cool, and DC has had a powerhouse of characters join up with other characters. Just recently, some of my favorite and coolest shots and comic shots were them teaming up with the Power Rangers, and the new one of them teaming up with the Ninja Turtles. Those were some pretty cool comics, and I think they like to try to push the envelope because they know, I don't know if this is just my personal opinion, they know their characters are kind of dimensional in this box, and adding storylines to their powers and adding things to dimensions and adding other mediums of universes to aid them or not to aid them, and a lot of scientific elements as far as like the dark metal, even though it's fictional, adding it to the storyline of the other elements and stuff. A lot of things they implement in those comics really make it compelling to read, and I think that what always propels their heroes to another level that usually Marvel doesn't have, because their storylines are so lackluster.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There are definitely diamond Marvel story arcs, specifically the Phoenix and Dark Phoenix saga, collectively, Walter Simonson's run
Age of Apocalypse. Days of Future Past. Original.
Days of Future Past, which was for those who don't know, was actually a 2-issue arc in which it just shows just how fantastic and memorable that whole
Secret Wars, original Secret Wars.
No, not
Yo, you hate the Splat Suit Spider-Man?
that. You literally just named one thing, but no,
all the heroes on Warplane fighting each other.
It was Battle World. And it was all right. It was an all right story with a lot of things. And if you look at the pictures, and you're a Spider-Man fan, means a lot of stuff. But as story-wise, it's not one of the best stories. But no, it's like, but yeah, you got
to me personally.
You got good ones. You got Siege. You have
Civil War 1
was garbage.
Hater.
Literally the worst comic. Literally the worst modern comic book I can think of.
Civil War 1.
Literally tanked.
Well, then let me just get something I know you're gonna love. World War Hulk. World War Hulk was great.
It was, but it's not. I'm not
when Doctor Strange took took his hands. Yeah, called on what's his name? I forgot the demon's name.
It was a cool, fun summer blockbuster.
Sentry going head up with, and they were going blow for blow.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it, but it's not something I would just completely over the moon with as compared to the DC.
Twist. That twist was amazing.
Was it?
Yes, that Hulk's thought it was them who put the bomb on the ship, but it was me trying to get the Hulk to be a ravaged, savage king like he was when he first got there, and he became a peaceful king.
And then it led to the worst Marvel character creation of all time in the Red Hulk. But we're not gonna.
Red Hulk is
was arbitrary, was unnecessary, and was just Marvel's way of not trying to find a way to not use Green Hulk because they don't like pushing Bruce until recently. But anyways, when you got DC storylines, you got what's up? Of course, you got the classic Crisis on Infinite Earths. You got Infinite Crisis. You got some modern classics like God dang the Dark Side and the Dark Side War, which was fantastic.
The Flash New 52 run was pretty good.
It was pretty good. You got Green Lantern, the Green Lantern Rebirth. You got the Sinestro Corps War. You got that. You got all of those things. Of course, the individual storylines with Death of Superman and Return of Superman. You know, you got the Batman, the Dark Knight Return specifically. You had Year One as well. Some more up-to-date ones, like outside of the ones I just named, the recent Justice League.
Doomsday Clock was really cool.
Doomsday Clock. You got some of the more recent ones with
not to cut you off, but for people who don't know, Doomsday Clock is just a recent run of DC crossover with Watchmen, and it was a lot of things dealing with the New 52.
You got the Justice League storyline with more recently the Justice Doom War. That was pretty awesome to read. Just a lot of story arcs, and then of course getting into some of the out of continuity stuff like you mentioned. Power Rangers, Justice League, and the Injustice storyline in its entirety.
Justice
so far,
is really
it's
cool.
a really good alternate universe take on DC characters. There's a lot of storylines you can pull from, and smaller story arcs as well that DC has that a lot of people remember very fondly and want to see done on the big screen. You know, the stuff like in any given stupid DC story, really. You know, any given Brainiac Superman storyline, any given Batman Bane storyline outside of Nightfall, you know, stuff with Wonder Woman and Cheetah or Cersei and stuff of that nature is just fantastic stuff, and just really good.
With that being said, I think we both agree that DC has the better comics overall. So going into the next topic, I think we're going to go into once again, I think we're going to agree on this one as well. Who has the best villains, Marvel or DC? And I'll let you start it off.
I mean, DC. I know it's kind of a joke right now. Just joke period that DC's villains are the best and Marvel's really can't compete where they don't compare, and they don't. It's just as simple as that. I'm not even going to list the names of them because you guys know them by heart and know what they do. You know, Lex Luthor, Joker, Deathstroke. You know, Cheetah, Solomon Grundy, Bizarro, Darkseid, Sinestro, Bane, you know, those guys. I guess. Yeah.
Well, if we can't even talk about or name the ones like we just did, we could talk about why Marvel doesn't have the best superheroes. And if I gotta see
villains,
villains, and if Thanos gets put in the cop car one more time,
Marvel's villains are like
who's the best Marvel villain? Green Goblin.
Doctor Doom is legitimately
Doctor Doom is number one.
Is legitimately the best Marvel villain by far. But it's like everyone, even then, Marvel has a tendency of writing all of their villains in continuity as scrubs, have them lose in scrubby ways. Doctor Doom, Galactus, and Thanos, objectively, the three more prominent villains have all lost to Squirrel Girl. You know, you have Ultron, but Ultron to me is a Gary Sue villain where
he's low budget Brainiac.
I mean, I don't even have to get into
the appreciate you too.
Thank you. I don't even have to get into the hyperbole of it. It's the fact that when you create a villain that's unstoppable to that extent, it becomes uncompelling because
what about Darkseid?
No, Darkseid has absolutely lost handedly to
and beat the brakes off Superman as well.
You're missing what I said. I didn't say beat the brakes off of a hero. I said be unnecessarily unstoppable to the point where any victory against him does not seem warranted. It seems cheap or like an ass pull. It's like, and that's very again, going back to this word, uncompelling of a story to read. And not like, so no Ultron for me. You know, you got any Spider-Man villain, they are alright, but they always get lumped up.
Spider-Man definitely has the best rogues gallery out of all of the Marvel characters.
No, I'm gonna go that far.
Who do you think has the best rogues gallery?
It's the X-Men, but no,
Quilt, Shock, man.
Just because you can remember the names and they have an impact on your child, that doesn't mean that they're the best.
So we got Venom, we got Carnage.
Venom is very much like if you actually read Venom.
At the beginning, he was a true villain. He was an anti-hero.
No, he was an anti-hero from the beginning. That's
if he wants to kill Spider-Man beyond anything, that makes him a villain.
Todd McFarlane, the creator of Venom, said that he was an anti-hero. Okay. All of Venom's early stuff.
If I want to murder someone,
that doesn't make
beyond anything that's going on.
What you're saying is irrelevant.
That makes him
because the creator and the stories that the creator wrote for the character portrayed him as an anti-hero. The only reason people really think of Venom as a villain is a handful of comic book stories and
where he's a villain,
and a handful
where he's a villain,
like your infant's handful. They're comics where people portray where the Superman is presented as a villain. Is he a villain? No. But I'm like
early Venom.
No, it's not. You keep saying that.
I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna show you.
You don't need to. You need to look for yourself. I know what I'm talking about. Like I'm saying, Venom is not was presented as an anti-hero. His only beef was with Spider-Man, who he thought was the villain. There's a reason why they keep going back to the Venom well as a hero, and why his books are not primarily him punching other heroes in the face.
Those are actually the reason he's been portrayed as an anti-hero has been over time incremental comics that have shown him the symbiote latches onto emotions, and it's been incremental through being with Flash and through Eddie Brock's own change in personality that has been incremental to him changing to a that just wasn't because of writing. That was actually through the stories.
Very early on. That wasn't just sprouted up 2 years ago. That's what I'm
saying though. It's stuff that incrementally has changed him. It wasn't just like, out of nowhere he's writing as an anti-hero. It's been through actual dynamic changes in the character.
But I'm saying though, when he started off, he was an anti-hero. Okay. The only reason people associate Venom as being a villain is because of the animated series. If you go back and reread, there's a reason why Carnage is more frequently used as the villain in Spider-Man comics. There's a reason why Maximum Carnage Venom was on the good guy's side.
Going back to what I'm saying, brought him on by emotion because who did Carnage latch on to?
But that was 4 years after that. He was presented as an anti-hero / hero 4 years into his creation. That's very early on in his existence. Is the only reason why he's presented as a villain is because of the animated series. He's never been a true, quote unquote, true Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus villain. And the times where he's had to team up with them, he's tried to kill them because he's perceived them as villains. It's never been a story arc, except for when Matt Gargan was Venom. That was the only time where Venom was just a flat-foot villain. But whenever it's Eddie, and especially when it was Flash, he was presented as an anti-hero at worst and a villain at best. So yes, I'm very hesitant now that I've read the history of Venom thoroughly to call him a full-fledged villain because, truthfully, when you actually step back and look at the lenses of the character, he's not. But we're enough about Venom. Enough of just we went over. Sorry for the tangent about if Venom is a good guy or a bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
Okay.
Well, not now, but originally he was.
Okay. Just wanting to kill Spider-Man is not a prerequisite of being a villain.
Like I said, I'm going.
J. Jonah Jameson.
We'll talk about this off screen because we gotta keep it pushing.
But yeah, it's a lot of the. In short, DC obviously has the better villains. Marvel treats their villains like running punchlines more often than they do not.
And I agree.
And it's not compelling. And then they try to compensate by making their heroes villains, which just makes things worse. So no, that is not the case. So now we're moving on to the next topic, which is
who has
we
did heroes, we did comics, and who has the best cartoons and animated movies and shows.
DC, it's obvious. It's again obviously DC. Marvel has absolutely made great cartoons in the past. All of their X-Men animated series have been extraordinarily great. Spider-Man the animated series and Spectacular Spider-Man amazingly great. Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes have been amazingly great.
So do you agree with DC or Marvel?
It's obviously DC because those 5 shows I just named are just a drop in the pond of actually all of the Marvel cartoons that have been made, and that has been absolute trash. We're talking
about not just they're animated, but TV as well. Let's pump that all together.
Okay, and it's still DC.
I disagree.
Daredevil doesn't sell.
So let me just say you're still on DC.
I'm saying
you're still on DC because if I'm with Marvel, I'm gonna explain my side of Marvel.
I know it, but
go ahead.
I'm going to say exactly why.
No, explain DC.
I'm going to explain. No, because you're scared that I'm going to sell the audience that.
Yeah, that's why you're supposed to let me get my opinion out.
If your opinion can't stand, I'm going to talk about. I got this. You stay on your side of the table because if your argument can't stand because I think it can. Okay, then. So
because at the end of the day, people's opinions are gonna be there.
Yeah. So why you worried about me mentioning Daredevil?
Because you gonna just talk about my whole.
No, I'm not. I'm going to give my opinion that just because Daredevil exists on Netflix and it is objectively a good show to majority of people, it does not erase the levels of mediocrity and garbage that comes out of Marvel's televisionography. Yes, you have X-Men the animated series, X-Men Evolution, Wolverine the X-Men, Spider-Man the animated series, Spider-Man Spectacular Spider-Man. Exactly. You have goddamn Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and you have Daredevil, and what else? Though you do know that Marvel put out at least 20 more other things. Do I have to talk about Iron Fist and how trash that show is? Do I have to talk about freaking the Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pilot that came out that was garbage?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is literally one of your favorite shows.
I didn't say Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
But I'm saying Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is literally one of your favorite shows.
And I recognize
Legion is one of your favorite shows.
And I recognize that Legion is a very specific palette.
That's still Marvel though.
And it's my favorite, but that doesn't mean I recognize it as a universal best. Would I like people to recognize it as the universal best? Yes, but I definitely understand that not a lot of people will stick with that show past the first season. And really after the second season, I'm not going to cap it, but think that this show is as approachable to everyone as it was for me, because 90% of me staying with the show was because of it being X-Men related. And because I'm a diehard X-Men fan.
Are you going to talk about DC?
Are you going to let me finish, or are you going to just think that I have to present both of them to make my case.
Okay.
So it's not sounding unfounded.
Uh-huh.
When you have all of the garbage-ass animated Marvel shows that's going on now that you're going to casually forget because you're trying to just stick with Daredevil. If you're going to talk about garbage-ass Iron Fist, are you going to talk about mid-Luke Cage? If you're going to talk about Defenders that you only really care about if you've watched literally all of the season prior to that, which, as I previously mentioned, there are shows that not everybody's going to ride with. If you're going to talk about the garbage-ass animated shows that literally make me not want to watch any more Marvel cartoons just because of how bad they are. If you talk about the mid shows, like the 2000 CGI Spider-Man cartoon, or any of the Fantastic Four cartoons, or the Incredible Hulk cartoons that did not age well, or the garbage Iron Man cartoon, or garbage ass Iron Man Armored Adventures that only have the awesome theme song, and that's about it. That Superhero Squad, which I personally love, but I understand is an objectively bad cartoon. All of those things encompasses. Ultimate Spider-Man alone is garbage. Spider-Man Unlimited was too short for it to be counted towards anything. And that's about it. And Spider-Man's 1965 theme song and the memes that came out of it. But we're not talking about memes or theme songs. We're talking about actual quality. Compare that to Batman the Animated Series. Not a miss. The New Adventures of Batman and Robin. Not a miss. Batman Beyond. Not a miss. Justice League. Not a miss. Justice League Unlimited. Not a miss. Young Justice. Not a miss. Teen Titans. Not a miss. None of the DC animated movies. No miss, 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 no miss.
Just saying that is your idea of
Smallville. Smallville. Somebody say. Who started the whole trend of making live action superhero television shows in the mid-aughts. Which, for those who don't know, is the mid-2000s. You say mid-aughts. You don't say mid-2000s because they deem that vernacularly is too long. So they say the mid-aughts because the 2 zeros are 2000. But all of that stuff that's going on right now, Legends of Tomorrow, like it doesn't, like that's it. That's like there's no argument that you can make that anything you're talking about, no difference. Go on ahead, take all the time you want to say your shit. You got it, bro.
You sure did. I was just waiting
to
stop talking.
I didn't even talk long. Not nearly as long as I was talking in the other 2 segments.
Anyway,
you kept cutting me. If you would have not been cutting me off, and you would have let me get to my point earlier, it wouldn't have seemed so long. Would it? So you got it now. Say it.
You sure, bud?
I said
positive. You surely positive.
You gonna keep dragging it out?
I'm sorry, Geeks and Gamers. Before somebody took my whole opinion,
he's capping.
Whole opinion, and just said it himself.
How did I take your whole opinion?
Anyway, now that I am talking, thank you. Now, we're talking about Marvel, who has definitely, I agree, animated movies wise, I give it to DC. But if we're talking about television and we're talking about cartoons in general, Marvel has hands and shoulders had better series than anything DC has produced. These have not been, these years, the early 2010s, the early 2000s, have not been kind to DC as far as animated shows. It is not.
What came out in 2010, Quentin, that everybody was upset when it got canceled by its second season? Just answer me that one question.
Let me finish. What? Let me finish. We've had Teen Titans. We've had The Batman. We've had Batman Brave and the Bold, which were all great shows.
I would have named, but I was apparently going to.
But they're not better than X-Men Evolution. They're not better than Spider-Man the Animated Series. They're not better than Spectacular Spider-Man. Never in life. And the show you named Iron Man Armored Adventures was not a bad show. Yes. Iron Man Armored Adventures was a good show. And then we have one of the best Avengers shows to ever come out. The Avengers shows that recently came out. That show was amazing.
You talking about Avengers United, They Stand from the early 2000s? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the Avengers that just recently before that.
Quentin, just because
that show was amazing.
I named all of those shows.
Let me talk. So what let me talk. I'll let you say your spiel. Let me say my spiel.
Let me say my spiel.
So they have had better shows. Now, even the shows that are actually better than a lot of these other DC shows, DC lovers don't even like, as far as Teen Titans go, which is an amazing show, a great show, and even DC lovers hate on that show.
Incorrect.
Okay. Anyway, as I was saying,
cartoon people.
Marvel has had a better run, and even the older 90s animated still hold up better towards these new animated DC shows. Then, as we get into TV, don't even get me started on your Arrows, your Flashes, your Supergirls, your Batwomans. They don't hold anything to the Marvel Netflix
those
series.
Shows don't
never. Don't
none of those characters even have live action shows. I don't even know what.
Even though they haven't had as many seasons seasons, those shows are head and shoulders better than what we had from Supergirl's 3 or 4 seasons, Batwoman's 1 season, Arrow's 9 seasons, Flash's 5 seasons, 6 seasons. These shows are not even holding a candle to anything Marvel has produced. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. went on for how many seasons and people loved it. People watched it even though it had its ups and downs. So no, I definitely agree that the animated movies, Marvel does not have anything to do with anything animated movie-wise. That's all DC. But anything else as far as TV, cartoons, it's all Marvel. And
You're absolutely capping.
It's no cap when these shows have longevity. People still watch them to this day. I don't see none of these DC shows racking up the streams that 90s animated X-Men are racking up.
What do you first of all, since you're gonna cap, let's cap correctly. First and foremost, since you told me of those shows that I didn't even know exist, I didn't even know Green Arrow had a show on CW. Who cares? But I remember that my homegirl Tabitha, who works with me on Worlds of DC podcast, she has a legion of fans behind her who watches the CW shows. That much I do know. So that's number one. Even though I don't personally know or would like those shows, I know she absolutely does love those shows and will go up for it and all of that. And secondly, yes, 5 out of the 20 animated series are just as good as some of the second-tier DC shows. Congratulations, Quentin. Batman and Brave and the Bold, objectively one of the best Batman shows. Same thing with the Batman, are just as good as X-Men Evolution and Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. You know what cartoons are absolutely better than those shows? Batman the Animated Series, The New Adventures of Batman, Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Justice League, Teen Titans, Young Justice. Do I need to go any further than that? At best, they're equal with the Marvel shows. At worst, they're equal with the Marvel shows.
Exactly.
At best,
cartoons and titled with the shows make them better than me.
No, it doesn't. Because the best DC shows are head and shoulders better than the best Marvel cartoons. What are you talking about?
But the best Marvel shows, if the
best DC animated shows are better than majority of the best Marvel live action shows.
No, sir.
Daredevil does not carry the entire Marvel.
Luke Cage was a great show. Punisher was a great show.
Luke Cage was an alright show if you were black, and a good show if you were a white guy trying to get cool with black people. Punisher,
exactly.
Punisher.
Okay, if we want to say that, but nobody. Okay, if you can say that Luke Cage was good because you're black, but nobody want to speak up about Black Panther being overrated because people.
Actually, a lot of people do.
You're not one of them
because I actually like Black Panther. Of course, I'm not going to lie and say Black Panther is overrated when I actually like the movie.
But we gotta say Luke Cage is overrated because he's black.
Because I think Luke Cage is overrated. It's because it was what? Those are my two opinions on both
Luke
subjects.
Cage was a very compelling show just because. Kirsten, appreciate you for tuning in.
No, you're not gonna get off like that because
Defenders
was great. Defenders again. You only watch Defenders if you put up with the bad of the Netflix shows and the bad. Iron Fist.
Iron Fist season 2 was not bad.
Iron Fist season 2, even if you watched Iron Fist season 2 came out after the Defenders. What about season 1, Quentin?
Season 1, okay. You can have one bad season, everything else was good.
One bad
everything else was good.
No, it wasn't.
Everything else was
Daredevil carried the crux of the Netflix shows. Period.
What carries the crux of the Netflix shows with Arrow, Flash,
and Punisher
was awesome.
And Punisher is literally what happens if we take out all of the unproblematic aspects of Frank's character and just present him?
That's a different version of the character.
But still, though, that's like basically saying, okay, we're going to make a Batman television show, but we're not going to have him be an asshole.
But you can't argue with the results. It was liked. It was majority positive.
It was liked
exactly
by people who last 2 iterations of the Punisher was bad movie and bad movie. So it can only go up. Don't worry. Just because you go up doesn't mean you climbed a mountain. Sometimes it means you just stepped over the clothes.
Just because somebody but you can't take because people like it and say, oh, the only reason you like it because it's better than this. They still like it.
But it's not the best. That's my whole point. My whole point is that it's getting to the point where you're like it's better than
It is better than anything that Arrow, Flash. The best thing that came out of Arrow and Flash is this recent Crisis on Infinite Earths when they had multiple versions of all these superheroes. That's the best thing they've done.
And then you still got
That's the best thing they've done.
And then you still got to account for things like Gotham, which was great. You got to take into account.
Gotham was great in a world where they said Commissioner Gordon met all these rogues back.
But it was still great because it doesn't
so he
matter.
proved the point. So it's still good.
But it's better. It's better than what Marvel did.
No.
Gotham
Gotham is nowhere near better than Daredevil. No.
One show.
No. That's one show.
Literally, all your whole argument
That's
is
one
just
show against
the
one show.
one show. Daredevil is the only show.
Arrow ain't, Black Lightning ain't better than Luke Cage.
That's
two shows.
That's a cap and a half.
Two shows.
It's a cap and a half,
shows.
and you know it.
It's
It is
two
an
shows.
ultra cap and a half.
Two shows.
Because when you know how Black Lightning is better, because when Black Lightning addressed N-words and racial profiling.
Okay, so it's only
better.
better because of one black aspect? It's only better because of one black aspect?
No, it's better.
It's a better show.
If we were trying to push 2.5 hours, I could go into detail about how much better it is than Luke Cage. But
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is better than Legends of Tomorrow?
that is subjective.
Now it's subjective. Okay.
What you mean?
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
Black Daredevil is legitimately the only quote-unquote God tier best show that everyone agrees upon is better
Defenders
than
one season
No.
is better than the crossover when it was Legions of Tomorrow, Arrow and Flash's first crossover.
Okay, and how many other crossovers have they done since?
But I'm just saying it's better. Though.
But again, math it up, Quentin. If you're going to say one thing, okay, Daredevil is better. Season 1 is better than one thing, but there's 5 other things better than Daredevil season 1. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is better than one other thing, but there's 7 other things better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Like
that
what?
DC does.
Like, talking about TV wise.
Yes,
What?
TV wise, because if we're going to encompass,
Like what?
because you're trying to sit there and say, "Oh, Daredevil is just better than the live action." No, if we're talking TV, we're talking about animation.
I'm talking about that whole Netflix stint is better than anything as far as Arrowverse, Flash, Batwoman, Supergirl, all of those. Legends of Tomorrow, the Netflix stint with Punisher, Iron Fist, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage is better than all of that. It is.
It's not. And you don't
It
even.
is.
And I know you're ultra cat because, ladies and gentlemen, Quincy doesn't even seen Jessica Jones, and he said he doesn't even
But
like
you know she's
Jessica
in
Jones.
Defenders.
And
Just because I don't like her character doesn't mean it's not
you
better.
haven't watched the show, so how can you even say it's
not
better?
How is it not
You
better?
literally just went up for something that you haven't seen, and you
How
said
is it not
and you
better?
the literal main character of the show you don't even like. So now you're capping the
Because I don't like a character, I've actually read and did synopsis on it, so I don't have to actually physically watch the show.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
To critique it,
Yes.
to understand
Yes.
the story,
Yes.
no, but to critique it, what are you talking about?
Yes, to critique it, you can know the synopsis and read and watch each episode in spurts and synopsis of the spurt of the episode. Actually, and
that ain't got nothing to
that
do
still
with the
has nothing
critique.
to do with what I'm saying.
What
The
is
Netflix
what you're
thing
saying?
is better than anything.
But we're not just talking about the Netflix thing. We're talking about the totality of the televised content that they produce. Animation and live action combined. You keep trying to categorize it to try to sweeten the pot, and you ain't going. I'm not letting you off like that because at the end of the day,
you don't even like the DC anything Arrowverse. Period. So
and it just so
Okay,
happens
so
that if you take out that aspect,
It's all-
DC is still curb stomping Marvel.
they're not.
How are it today? You named me 5 shows.
Tiki, I appreciate
You named me 5 shows over the course of 10 years between animation
I told
and
you about
live
the animated
action.
too that I like.
Those were the
I just
5.
moved in.
Those were the 5 shows. Daredevil makes it 6, and you're capping for Defender, so that makes it 7. And you're trying to lightly cap for Luke Cage, that makes it 8. DC still has all damn near 15 of their animated series, and then even if you take out the Arrowverse, they still have at least 3 shows within the Arrowverse, well, the Arrowverse adjacent, that are still as good as the best Marvel show.
not.
Okay, all right.
But moving on,
DC has the best. Has the best televised content.
as far as cartoons,
They
as
no,
far as
you're
animated
trying,
movies,
You're trying
yes.
to. That wasn't the question.
Cartoons, no.
That wasn't the question.
Movie,
You
TV, no.
You said You said television, and the last I checked, all of those stuff aired on television. All of the stuff Marvel did aired on television, and the math ain't math, and it don't add up. It's DC takes it by a landslide.
Sound
And I love X-Men. I love all 3 X-Men animated series. I love both I love Spider-Man,
Exactly.
but I love all of the other stuff DC done much more because
Sure
it
does.
has lasted much longer.
But anyway,
And
moving
it's done
on
much
to the
stuff.
next subject.
The last subject.
Who
the best
has
subject.
better movies?
It's simple.
DC or Marvel?
DC. It's all DC. It's always
Never
going to
in
be
a
DC.
million years who has the better movies, DC or Marvel.
It's
Would
absolutely-
anybody say DC has had a better? And I'm not even talking about the 22 movies that came out in succession. There are plenty of movies that are
Is
definitely
there?
better.
Is there?
Yes.
Is there?
Blade 1 and 2,
Okay.
Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Then you also have the other. So a lot of people, now mind you, I've seen this. A lot of people actually, even though he doesn't like it, Punisher Warzone was actually very cult classic-y. A lot of people love Punisher Warzone.
You mind giving the audience the definition on why something is called a cult classic?
And for its time, it might be frowned upon or seen in a bad light, but as time progresses, people actually realize that it's a great movie.
No, that's a half definition. A cult classic is something that was frowned upon when it was released, but as time goes on, people recognize it as not being bad. Doesn't mean it's great or even
Well, I
good.
kind of flubbed the great, but yeah, same thing. Good movie, great movie, doesn't matter. Some cult classics have came out to be great movies. Some have come out to be good movies.
But Punisher Warzone wasn't great.
It was good. People like it. So,
Keep going.
but those were the movies that aren't in the 22 succession, because we also have one of the best superhero movies of all time, Avengers, and obviously you got your Batman Dark Knights, you got your Michael Keaton Batmans, you got your Wonder Womans, but for the most part, all the other DC movies that have come out have been eclipsed. No one talks about DC movies.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Let me-
Continue your line.
Yeah, let me
Please
finish.
continue
Let
your line.
me-
Don't pause.
let me finish.
Don't pause. Keep going. Because
Yeah,
when you
let me
pause,
finish.
that gives me intention that you want me to speak.
No, it doesn't.
So,
It just leave me catching my breath.
So-
So I'm finna talk.
Breathe through your nose.
No.
How
Oh,
about
wow,
that?
okay.
How about that?
Anyway.
Breathe through your nose.
Anyway.
Don't let me talk again.
Anyway, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted,
And you're gonna keep being rudely interrupted.
we have now. Let me tell you, all of the movies that people claim are great. Recently, you had Joker, good movie. But if you never seen anything Marvel, and only if you just took a clown and put it, you wouldn't even think, oh man, that could have been a Joker. You wouldn't even thought that was a Joker movie. Period. If you just took a clown and put him in the movie and didn't say nothing about Joker, didn't say nothing about, you wouldn't even know it was a Joker movie. You had Birds of Prey. He seen and said it was a good movie, still commercial flop. You have the movies that people love. Aquaman, great movie, good movie, not great. You have probably the best superhero movie of all time. You have Batman, The Dark Knight, probably arguably the best one. Then you got Suicide Squad, another commercial flop. I love the movie personally, thought it was good. Then you have all the Michael Keaton, the Val Kilmer, the George Clooney, most hated Batman, which is also a cult classic. Batman Forever, all of those Batmans. Then, as far as DC, you also have Wonder Woman. Really, from what I heard, I haven't seen it myself. I don't really care for Wonder Woman like that. It's good. Heard it's a good movie, but was it one of the best? It had a great weekend, but it's all time good. Just people loving the movie. People talk about it. Okay, it's good. Gal Gadot did great, but no one's sitting here comparing it to The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is obviously the biggest DC movie of all time as far as people who love it, enjoy it, and sales. Now, when you come to Marvel, it's not even up for debate. The movie's Blade was a huge success. Even the trilogy, even the third movie, which did horrible and people hated it, was still a part of a multi-million-dollar trilogy. People love Blade, and it didn't even start anything dealing with anything on any type of Marvel extended universe. Then you have Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Once again, the third movie, but Spider-Man 2 is arguably the best Marvel movie of all time. Then you also have people who love the Amazing Spider-Man for words I don't even know, but they love Amazing Spider-Man. Then you have not only Iron Man 1 of the highest grossing Marvel movies, which in turn started a whole version of cinematic universes where people try to intertwine their movies together, including DC. Then you also have all of these lined up. The Avengers, one of the highest grossing movies of all time, the original first Avengers, period, which is arguably, once again, one of the best movies. Black Panther, arguably one of the best movies. People love it, made $1 billion, all this. Then you also have Once again, great cinematography. Your number one, your Avengers Age of Ultron, your Avengers Infinity War, your Avengers Endgame. You have Captain Marvel. We don't talk about her. She was horrible. But there is no inkling and in no time period that we have had DC. At this point in time, there's no way that you can say that DC has had a better catalog of movies than Marvel. There's no way you can say that. There is no way. Even without the 22 movies, there are plenty of movies that I just sit here. Enter the Spider-Verse. We can count Sony because that's a part of Marvel. That's Spider-Man. There is no way. Just with the Batman, the Christian Bale Batman, you can't hold that up in people's face and say, "Oh, DC is better because we got this style of Batman for 3 movies." No, you can't. No, I'm not gonna let you sit here and use Christian Bale. Justice League, their major movie was horrible. BVS objectively was okay, but for the most part, people said it was bad. So no, there is no way that you're gonna sit here and bring up Wonder Woman, who did okay, and Birds of Prey, and bring up all these other movies from DC and say, oh, because they're good, that makes them better than these great movies that have come out. And you're gonna bring up Marvel and how you don't like how they wrote their stories and how they're bad, but that doesn't mean that they haven't made a more substantial dent in people's minds and people's psyche about what has come out. You can't.
So just so I'm in the clear, you're quantifying box office.
No. These movies are head and shoulders better.
So you're disqualifying.
These movies are head and shoulders better.
So you're saying that while you brought it up as a point of reference,
it's always a point of reference.
But box office was not.
Oh, and then I didn't even bring up Deadpool. I didn't even bring up none of the X-Men movies. We didn't talk about X-Men 2, which is once again arguably one of the best comic book movies of all time. How many times have we said that about DC? Only with Batman. What other besides Man of Steel can anybody say is arguably the best DC? Any DC movie is arguably the best movie of all time. And not talking about Joker, because you can't use Joker. It's a whole different story. Not even really the Joker.
Yes, you can. That's like.
And then on top of that, I'm finna say it. I'm not done. And I'm finna say it. Joaquin Phoenix Joker is not better than Heath Ledger's, and I'm just gonna throw it out there because everybody knows it. Everybody knows it.
Are you finished?
No, actually not. There is nothing that can come out and say that they can topple Marvel's movies pound for pound, blow for blow. The 10 best Marvel movies.
Quality-wise.
The 10 best Marvel movies against the 10 best DC movies, and Marvel's got it.
So quality-wise, you're speaking.
All around.
No,
all around.
Are you saying all around? Because
let me know, guys.
No, forget them. You don't try to.
Whoa!
Because you're trying to deflect.
Whoa!
You're trying to
just took it to 100 real.
I said forget
Geeks and Gamers. Let us know in the comments what you guys think is better movie-wise, Marvel or DC.
And I appreciate that, but I'm debating you. I'm debating you because you're trying to.
Hands up! Don't shoot.
No, I'm about to bust a cap in your ass.
Hands up!
I'm about to bust a cap in y'all ass.
Hey, y'all
into the Q-universe. I loves y'all. But Q is deflecting to y'all because he knows I'm about to get in his ass. Because, as we all know...
You can't, because all you have to do is say some moves that everybody believes is not better than anything Marvel.
No, because at the end of the day, only about 6 or 7 superhero movies that have been not rated R have not made back their money. So we can't include monetarily wise because they're making $1 billion with... the only reason Marvel has made the consistent $1 billion is because they marketed it to their major movie, so it became must watch. But most of their movies that have been in the shebang of their whole 22 movie arc has not reached $1 billion. The outliers are all of the Avengers movies, the superhero movies that were associated with Infinity already. 4, but that's not the point. It's 4 because it was tied into the major story arc. It's like a television show.
But that's still 4 movies. It doesn't matter what it's tied into. It's 4 movies.
Are you gonna let me finish?
You're right.
I sat here and I let you lie. I sat here and I let you lie.
You got it.
All 5 of them, all 6 of the MCU movies to break $1 billion. 7 tied into Infinity War or Endgame. Because those were things that people really wanted to see. All of the other movies were made traditional blockbuster movie money. It just so happened that 2 or 3 of them came out at a time. So that is the box office argument, because it's ultimately irrelevant, because whenever a movie that people want to see comes out, they're going to see it. Superhero movie or otherwise. Jurassic World made Avengers money, and that's Jurassic World. Fast and Furious made Avengers money, and that's Fast and the Furious. So we can eliminate box office out of the equation. Now, you talk about the quality of the movies. Quentin, can you name me any of the major plot points of Ant-Man?
Which one?
Can you name me the major points of Ant-Man?
Did I bring up Ant-Man?
That was a Marvel movie, right?
I said you.
No, that was a Marvel movie. Answer the question. Can you name?
No, but that doesn't necessarily mean.
I'm not finished.
I'm
not finished with my statement. I just asked you a simple. Can you name me? This is the first part. Can you name me the major plot points of Ant-Man?
Ant-Man and the Wasp. They was trying to defeat.
Not Ant-Man. Not Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh,
Ant-Man.
no. I'm sorry. Yellow Jacket, who worked with Michael Douglas, was trying to figure out how to use the technology to also become Ant-Man, and got the technology and became Yellow Jacket. And the whole premise of that was trying to defeat him.
And no, there's a lot more to it.
No, that's still the main premise.
No, that's the villain's motivation. That's not the premise of it. But nice try. Nice. It's
what?
That's
okay.
That's not the premise of the movie.
Okay.
That is not the premise of the movie. That's the villain's motivation. But
so what's the premise?
The premise of the movie.
So you know the premise.
I know.
Okay.
That speaks.
Okay.
My point is DC, and I know the premise better than you do. But
what was the premise then?
The premise of the movie was Hank Pym was afraid that people were going to steal his technology.
Which Yellow Jacket did.
No, it wasn't just Yellow Jacket, it was people in general, and he needed somebody to steal it back from him. All the while trying to keep his daughter from joining the family business because he lost.
Which
his
she
wife.
did in Ant-Man and the
That's
Wasp.
not the point of you're naming the next movie story beats. You're not naming exactly.
Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going with your.
My point is you went up.
I did.
You named the villain's motivations, but you can keep saying that.
Which was Hank Pym's problem, which he
expounded upon, and now you're trying to be
worried about
because you did at first you couldn't name it off the top of your head.
I couldn't.
And
I can't name every premise.
But you said, well, apparently,
if
the movie.
I had to think about it.
You had to think about it. Nice. The second Thor movie. You mind telling me the main purpose of that?
Thor number 2.
I said second Thor movie.
Yes. Freaking the elf, Dark Elf. He wanted to have the power of the. They had got infected. She got infected by the stone, and it was corrupting her, and it had an effect on her, making her sick. And the Dark Elf was trying to get that power. Yes, he was.
That was not it. You just gave, again, the abridged version of the character.
See, come on, man. You can't sit here and dilly-dally on
the because there's a difference between...
No, you can't do that.
Because the premise of Thor the
Just because you know how to expound the words perfectly doesn't mean...
No, it's not expounding the words perfectly.
I'm not going to sit here
It's not because if
the Dark Elf was trying to gain the power of the stone, and the stone was corrupting people. If you watch the movie, you can see
First of all, he didn't know...
And he was bringing...
First of all, he didn't know it was an Infinity Stone. He just knew of it as
But he knew... Okay, what does that mean?
Secondly, he wasn't...
Do I have to expound exactly?
Yes, because the movie tells you exactly what he's doing, and you didn't do that.
Come on.
You didn't do that. So that tells me... You told me You told me his motivation after the whole first act was done, because he didn't even know Jane had the ether until he just so happened to go to Asgard to invade it because to seek vengeance on the House of Odin, because Thor's grandfather was the one who banished him and the Dark Elves from the Nine Realms. And the whole reason he wanted to come back...
So you want me to just tell you the whole movie?
You told me. Well, Quentin, you just told me that the totality, not including the...
No, I'm talking about you want me to go play for play from beginning of
That's not play for play. I can... If you want me to go... Considering the fact that I've seen the movie, I can go play for it. But the fact that you just went up and said that this movie was so memorable and so all of these movies are just so much more memorable than DC's films. And what you're doing is you're picking movies that you know that are not memorable that I can't. You just said that they are.
No,
that was your argument, not mine.
No, I specifically said not every 22 lining up. And
you said not including the 22.
And you bringing up the movies in the 22.
But those are literally the biggest movies of Marvel's entire filmography, Sony and Fox included. Period.
But I see how you took the movies that you know that I did not bring up and tried to use those in the argument.
But you
bring up the movies that I used.
the ones that you've seen
okay.
and that you've seen.
And I've seen Dark Thor and Dark World in the movie.
Clearly, you haven't because you couldn't told me anything about it. You
I
brought
literally
up.
did.
You brought
I
up.
was bringing it
And
up.
then the movies you brought up. The movies that you brought up the ones that everybody. You brought up the ones that everybody saw and not everybody and everybody saw but not everybody loved. You brought up Blades 1, 2, and 3. That one had a recency bias because people want to cap for Wesley Snipes. So of course that's going to ring true in the memory.
Okay.
And 2, you brought up Spider-Man, which is objectively the biggest trilogy. So of course I don't need to refresh your memory on that. But you're trying to speak on all of these movies being more memorable than the MCU, and literally 2 movies that came out in the past 5 years, you couldn't tell me the actual. You couldn't tell me the actual plot. You told me
You picked and prodded what I was telling you and said that's not the story.
No, it's not picked and prodded. There is a clear difference between plot and villain motivation, but that's focusing on one point. Let me go to the next point. You brought up how nobody talks about DC, how everybody just talks about the Dark Knight, and how no one thinks of Wonder Woman on average as much as they do the Dark Knight, or they feel like Wonder Woman isn't as memorable. Do you not know that Wonder Woman was heavily campaigned to actually be to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture, and that it actually made it to the screenplay of best adaptation / best screenplay Oscar for the 2017 Oscars, which you don't do if you are an unmemorable movie that people only think about for a monochrome of time.
Logan did it,
and people still talk about Logan.
and Logan is Marvel.
But your whole point was that there wasn't. You're just saying stuff now that's proving my point and not proving yours. How isn't it?
Because Logan is better than I could put a movie up right now, a DC movie, and I'm going. Logan is better than it.
Dark Knight.
Okay.
Joker.
That was fun. Yes, it's definitely better than Joker.
That is a lie, and I love Logan.
In the comments, let us know what y'all think. Was Logan better than Joker? If you've seen Logan, the last Wolverine movie, Hugh Jackman, was it better than Joker?
It was.
Logan is definitely better than Joker.
And again, Joker won Joaquin Phoenix's Academy Award for Best.
Yes, because that wasn't a Joker movie.
It was a Joker
Okay.
movie. There are people have more than most definitely taken comic book panels, the quote unquote litmus test for how comic booky your film is, and taking it beat for beat. There are definitely comic book references in Joker.
Reference doesn't make it the character the character. References do not make
How?
it the character.
When every single living Joker actor have told the audience and the people that there is no
Let us
definitive
know in
way.
the comments what is better, Logan or Joker.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure anybody who will see this will say either Logan or Joker. Probably equally if I'm being objective, because they're both amazing films.
All right.
What are you talking about? And secondly, this
And
whole
you used the Dark Knight like I knew you would.
Exactly, because
I could bring up plenty of any other movie you could bring up. I could say one's better than.
Like what? And what? I can say definitely Wonder Woman is better than 70% of
It's not better than Black Panther.
Bullshit. Excuse my language.
And Black Panther's not even the best one.
Black Panther is literally a alright MCU movie that's black and a very well done black movie. So it gets the points for being an authentic black experience. But if we're talking a movie, no, it's not better than Wonder Woman. It's not better than Wonder Woman. You're talking about god dang what?
Civil War.
Civil War is not better than Civil War is not even a good movie. It's not a good movie. It's a movie with good action set pieces, but there is no good acting in Civil War. There's no compelling story beat moments in Civil War that you don't immediately there's like everything in Civil War that's supposed to be emotional. You stop and think for 2 seconds and you recognize it's stupid as hell.
Oh my god.
Thor Ragnarok is trash. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is trash.
1 is good.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 is alright. If you don't read up anything on the director or how the movie's actually made, which taints your worldview on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Ant-Man is trash. Ant-Man and the Wasp is trash. Spider-Man Homecoming is only liked because Spider-Man is in it. Because there's literally, if you're going to talk about movies, quote-unquote, not being the concept you introduced, the movies of, well, this isn't a Joker movie. Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man movies because there's not a damn Spider-Man thing in there outside of a person in a red and blue costume. There's no attributes of Peter Parker in those movies. There's no great power. There's literally no with great power comes great responsibility in those movies. There's no Uncle Ben in those movies. But again,
Uncle Ben has to be in there?
He's the literal reason Peter becomes Spider-Man.
But Uncle Ben has to be in it, what you're saying?
He has to be referenced in some capacity, meaningful to Peter, that he makes the decision to become Spider-Man, which as it stands right now, does not exist. But I'll keep going. Iron Man 3 is trash. Iron Man 2 is trash.
No, it's all
it
right.
is trash.
Iron Man 1 is great.
Okay, Iron Man 1 is great.
Ultimate Destruction is good. Can go
Yes,
up,
the
can
video.
go up against,
Yes,
can go against
I agree. The video game Hulk Ultimate Destruction is good. The Incredible Hulk is all right. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is amazing. Avengers: Endgame is, if you never read the interviews from the directors that consistently ruin the story beats of the movie, is great. Avengers: Infinity War is great to some people because not a lot of people even like Infinity War. Captain America: The First Avenger is good. Okay. Now you know there's been 22
Do we
movies.
have to go through all these DC movies that were bad?
Like what?
Superman Returns.
Superman
Bad.
Returns was good.
Justice League. Bad.
That's
Batman Forever was bad until it became a cult classic because how bad it is.
Batman Forever is not a bad Batman movie at all. People, that's what makes.
What would you rather watch, Blade or Batman Forever?
Batman Forever. I would definitely watch. I'd watch Blade 2
That's what
over
I mean.
Batman
Yeah,
Forever.
Blade 2, that's what
I wouldn't watch Blade 1.
Blade
and
2
I
is
would
definitely.
And the only reason I would watch Blade 2 for Batman Forever is just to watch Wesley Snipes. Not for any real story.
And the only reason we watching Batman Forever is to see George Clooney pull out a black
That is
card.
Batman and Robin.
That's still in the same
That
scenario.
is not, but that's not the. I'm specifically talking about Batman Forever.
But we're talking about.
I know.
We're talking about. We want to see Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy and
no, you talk
Mr.
about
Freeze. Let's kick some ice.
Those are memes that people
The
recognize.
movie's campy.
But nobody
make it
goes
bad, what I'm
up for Batman and Robin, Quentin. No one does. I don't know who you are pulling these invisible people out.
But I'm saying
from thin air.
these movies are not better.
Okay, you gave me 2. And I gave you 3 that are better than 5 of the MCU.
Okay.
If you're doing math, do you know the law of greater
So
than and
is
less
Iron
than?
Man 1 better than is Batman Begins better than Iron Man 1?
They're equal. Yes, they're equal. I can see the look on your face. Have you seen Iron Man 1 in recent memory? Because I have. And Iron Man 1 reminded me of
Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as
Christian Bale's was just as good. There's a reason
Christian
why
Bale is not my favorite Batman.
Okay, that's nice, but his performance as Batman
right.
was just as
It
good.
wasn't, no.
Because people forget that
You must forgot that Liam Neeson didn't carry that movie as Ra's al Ghul.
he didn't, because he only appeared in
Oh my
the first and
God.
third act of the movie.
But the first
How
and
can
third
he
act was
care?
the most prominent.
No, it wasn't.
When he was training as the League of Assassins.
That only first of all, that whole segment in the first act was only
Christian Bale
was
always
only
in that role.
No, it hasn't at all. People only say
Are we
that.
watching the same movie?
Clearly, we're not because you're just pulling shit out of your ass at this point.
God.
What are
No,
you
that's
talking
you.
about? Christian Bale. There's a reason why people were fawning over Christian Bale when Batman Begins came out, Quentin. They didn't just pop up.
Because he was a different type of grittier Batman than we've ever seen.
Because of his performance.
As far as the material he was given, but as far as his acting,
There is a reason why before anybody knew Heath Ledger was going to be good as the Joker, people were like, The Dark Knight's going to be better than Iron Man 1 because of Christian Bale. Not because of any other reason.
Okay.
So to say,
If you
that
think
is,
so.
What you think? That's what people were saying.
You think so?
I can go to the MTV 2008 Movie Awards when Robert Downey Jr. was hosting,
No, sir.
and they were doing the whole skit of, Iron Man 1's going to be good until The Dark Knight comes out.
And
it
it wasn't because of Christian Bale when it came out.
Before the hype was around Christian Bale and kind of Heath Ledger because people were hearing that maybe he was
People
going to
hated Heath Ledger when he was in there.
My point exactly about Christian Bale being the main draw up until the movie coming out, and then people saw how amazing.
You guys go watch Batman Begins and tell me if you guys feel like Christian Bale's acting performance was better than Batman Begins
was equal.
Was
'cause
equal
I said,
to or better than Robert
I
Downey
said
Jr. as
specifically
Iron Man
equal.
and Iron Man
I said
1?
specifically equal, not better than nothing. I said specifically
Equal or better to, because you did bring up that people were saying that he was going to be better.
Yes, and
So that's
in
what I'm
regards
asking.
to
That's
the,
what I'm asking Geeks Game.
because-
I'm not saying you. I'm saying people said that. So you guys let me know.
and then the Dark Knight for sure. I don't even have
That's
to,
the only movie. You
No,
can
it's
really
not
use,
just-
because it's the literally physically the
even if you're gonna go that lame ass route, it's still not the best. It's still not the only one. But even if you're gonna go that lame ass route, it's still literally better than the entire filmography of Marvel, Sony, and Fox's.
I agree that, but the question was who has had the better catalog of movies, not who has had the best movie period of all time.
I'm getting to that part. Because at the end of the day, you're still going up after that. The Dark Knight Rises is still a fantastic movie. That's better than the majority of the MCU's category. We're not even talking
I know,
about...
right? This is a long one.
We're not even talking about movies like Watchmen or V for Vendetta, which are DC movies, which are for sure better than fucking Blade, and better than goddamn any
V
of the
for
Blade.
Vendetta is objective.
Watchmen,
That's an opinion.
Watchmen better than Blade,
Watchmen.
better than Punishers, better than...
Watchmen is definitely not better than Blade 2. Watchmen is not better than Blade 2. Watchmen is not better than Blade 2.
Quentin, audience, the only reason Q is going up so hard for Blade 2 is because there's a specific scene at the end of Blade 2.
If you think that's
where
fine, I
Wesley
don't know what to tell
Snipes,
you.
where Wesley Snipes
The sewer scene,
where
when
Wesley
the
Snipes
sewer scene when they were when it
was
dark,
the worst
was
scene in the
awesome.
movie because you couldn't tell
The
what was
scene
going
when Blade
on.
fought at the ending when he fought,
Which is the
vampire.
only reason, that was your only
No,
reference.
You said that was my favorite.
Yes, that is your
You said that
only.
was
No, I said that was your only reference for why you keep going up for it because you don't.
No,
I've
Blade 2 is
never.
a good movie.
I've
Wesley
never heard
Snipes'
you brought up
acting,
the
his
sewer
choreography
scene.
was great.
I've never
Just
heard you
because
brought
I
up
don't
the
bring it up
sewer
to you
scene.
doesn't mean I don't.
But
like the scene.
that's literally not something that you
Because I
bring
can
up.
just bring it up to you. My favorite scene doesn't mean I don't like other scenes of the movie.
Okay, we're gonna go that route. But Watchmen is still better than Blade. Any of the Blades. V for Vendetta still better than any of the Blades. The Dark Knight still better than
Dark Knight is definitely
The Dark
arguably
Knight
the
Rises.
best movie. So you
Batman
have to
Begins.
Dark Knight Rises
still
was
better
not
than-
that good.
Batman Begins still better than most of those movies. Don't even get
Batman
me,
Begins
don't
is
even
definitely
get
not
me
better
started
than
on-
Winter Soldier. Batman Begins is not better than The Winter Soldier. Never.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that's one movie you
No.
named. That's one movie you named.
I named multiple movies already. I've already said Dark Knight is the best movie.
No,
period.
you
but that
mentioned-
doesn't eclipse that. Marvel
You mentioned
had a better-
Spider-Man 3, which means
Spider-Man 2 is better than any movie besides Dark Knight you can name right now.
Spider-Man 2 isn't even the best Spider-Man movie anymore. So how can it possibly be better than
Spider-Man 2 is definitely the best. Besides, and then Into the Spider-Verse. Don't even get me started. Can go up against any movie you say.
Okay, that's
That's two movies.
Into the Spider-Verse is literally the only movie that you can name.
I just said Winter Soldier, and you just agreed.
I said it's better than Batman.
Which it is.
That's one movie is better than.
And then, no, I'm talking about movies that can go up against any DC movie and beat it.
No, Winter Soldier absolutely cannot do that.
No, I'm saying you brought up a movie, and I said another movie that's better than it.
You're talking in circles. You're not making any sense.
How am I not? When I'm telling you, you can name a movie. The only movie you have is Dark Knight.
No, because you brought up Winter Soldier, and I said,
And
okay,
it's better than Batman
And
Begins.
I
And
said
it's better
that's,
than Batman Dark Knight Rises.
and I said it's not
Wow.
because it's not.
Dark Knight Rises wasn't even a good movie.
How wasn't it? Because of memes
No.
that deliberately don't tie
It
each
dragged
other.
on.
Dragged
Tom
on.
Hardy's Bane was not as good as everybody claims he was.
The Dark Knight Rises did
His
not
Bane was
drag
not
on.
as good.
If
Anne
any-
Hathaway's performance was lackluster. The whole it wasn't good.
Okay, all right.
It wasn't good.
Okay, oh,
It
shit.
wasn't.
It wasn't good.
It wasn't.
But Blade 2 is better.
You guys
than
tell me
Watchmen.
if you guys like Dark Knight Rises. Like I said, Dark Knight is definitely the best.
And then
the
I
best
haven't even
movie
got
of all
it.
time.
I haven't even got to movies like Man of Steel and BVS and Wonder Woman.
BVS was objectively-
who
objectively
all three of
mixed
those
opinions.
movies are still talked about heavily by thousands of
BVS
people.
was not better than Avengers 1. That's one movie down.
That is Avengers 1 isn't even a good movie. No, not
Oh my god. He just said Avengers 1 wasn't a good movie.
Was it Quentin? Was it a good movie? Was it what?
So BVS is better than Avengers 1.
Quentin.
Batman vs Superman was better than. That's it.
Avengers 1 isn't even the
That's
best
the
Avengers
only
movie.
question.
Yes, Quentin, yes. 1,000 times yes. It didn't make sense how.
Oh my God.
First of all, it took me 6 times watching that movie to realize.
Batman vs Superman.
It took me 6 times watching Avengers to realize that, oh man, they edited this movie bad because I didn't even know Loki's scepter was causing them to act up. It never made any sense No, but you said it
The
was.
question was, is it better than BVS?
Absolutely, because there's actual story beats.
Which
in a
BVS
movie.
is Batman vs Superman, by the way.
It is, Quentin. What about Avengers' story is good? What about it? Because there is no story to the movie. Because it's quip, unexplained event, quip, unexplained event, poor editing that doesn't portray the scene correctly. And then the third act being salvaged because it literally is something that nobody who hasn't watched an episode of Power Rangers never seen before. Period. Period. And then you got goddamn Avengers Age of Ultron. Don't even get me started.
No, I didn't like Age of Ultron. So
I don't care what you like. I'm talking about what is objectively bad.
Okay.
You got Avengers Age of Ultron. You got goddamn Thor the Dark World. You got goddamn Ant-Man. You got goddamn Guardians 2. You got goddamn Thor Ragnarok. You got goddamn Spider-Man Homecoming. You got goddamn Iron Man 2. Goddamn Iron Man 3. Goddamn Ant-Man and the Wasp. Goddamn freaking... This doesn't even compute. You got movies like BVS, who people still petition and watch in mass with the director every year talking about it, writing articles about how amazing the movie is. Okay. People still talk about it. The movie made a lot of money. The DVD sales for BVS are incredible.
Like you said, money doesn't, box office doesn't matter.
But you brought it up, so I'm piggybacking off of what you said.
Okay.
People still talk about it. Constantly, some of the best people I've ever met in my life is because we were talking about BVS in mass, Man of Steel in mass, Wonder Woman in mass.
Man of Steel is a good movie. I didn't say it, but
and all of those movies are better than your average Marvel movie, better than the majority. And the Marvel movies that I would quote unquote say are better are movies that take inspiration from the stuff Man of Steel and BVS introduced. Like a Logan,
again,
like an
there
Into the
are movies
Spider-Verse.
I didn't even bring up.
And all of the movies that you can possibly bring up don't compete where they don't compare.
X2 is definitely
X2
better.
is
X1
not
is a good movie. X1 is
and not a single X-Men movie outside of Logan.
Days of Future Past.
That I love dearly, and is not better than any of the movies outside
Days
of
of Future
Justice
Past
League.
wasn't better than BVS.
Hell no, and I love BVS. You
Days
know
of Future
how
Past
much.
is better than Aquaman.
No, definitely not. Absolutely not. And I love Days of Future Past very much so, but I'm not going to cap and say that it is just to say it wasn't at all in any capacity better than anything that Aquaman did, better than anything BVS did at all. Those movies had depth. They had character. They had emotional story beats. Days of Future Past had that, but some of the stuff didn't go. Some of the stuff I was like, could have did better. None of the MCU movies have any sort of stakes, any sort of emotion, any sort of feeling. The major thing about Infinity War, a movie that I go up for, and I do say is as good as not Joker or Dark Knight good, but I would say is up there. One of the main things that I do agree on to an extent is that none of the deaths impacted anything because all of these characters were going to come back, which they have in some capacity or another. Meaning that there was no stakes. Literally no stakes. Avengers Endgame. If you literally, you said better. You said the movies that are better. I'm telling you how the movies is not better. Avengers Endgame. When I saw the movie, I was like, my God, this is truly a great movie. Then the directors and writers who were responsible for grading the movie told me everything, not leaving it up for interpretation like how me and you talked about earlier. They blatantly said everything that we thought about the movie was wrong, and here's their shitty explanation, which makes the movie marginally worse. And the only reason why Endgame isn't bad is because the third act is legitimately well shot, well done, with actual stakes, actual emotions, that it literally saves the movie, which is a tremendous accomplishment that I cannot undersell. Period. It just is. And I'm not going to cap and say Endgame is anything lower than that. But you're not going to sit here and tell me because, Spider-Man 3. We all know that Spider-Man 3 is not an objectively great movie. Good to an extent, but great, hell no. Amazing Spider-Man 1, 2, you acknowledge that the movies are bad. I like them because I like Andrew Garfield, but I'm not going to say that they're great or damn near better than any of the DC movies that I saw. That's not the truth. X-Men movies I very much love, but a lot of those movies, a lot of that love, with the exception of Days of Future Past, X2 and Logan, Deadpool 1, maybe Deadpool 2 were good, but not better than what
How
DC
many
did.
DC movies can you say are great?
Damn near all of them except for Superman 3, Superman 4, and Batman and Robin in Justice League. And literally 3 of the 4 movies I just named are bad because of studio interference. So primarily, if and literally the 4th movie I named has a completely different cut that is more or less completely different than the movie I named. So even then, that can completely change the dynamic of it. All of the movies you name on Marvel, the only reason people think aren't good is because they saw it en masse for one weekend, talked about it for one weekend, and then didn't talk about it ever again. Nobody fucking talks about Endgame until one of the directors open their mouth and say something stupid about why they chose to kill off Black Widow, and then that's when they talk about it. And I'm talking, I know what I'm talking about. I actually talk to the people. I'm not just going off of what Q was going off of memory. I talk to the people on a day-to-day basis from multiple fandoms, and they only ever talk about it once or twice a week. And everything else, they're just like, oh, hey, remember with the comic books? They don't talk about the movies. The people I can tell you, handedly, people talk about BVS, Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Birds of Prey, Shazam, on a damn near day-to-day basis, Suicide Squad. That you said that was a flop. It was the most successful DCU movie at the time, up until that point. So
DC for you for movies.
At the end, to wrap it all up, DC is the only reason people say Marvel is the best is because of box office. None of the movies, Marvel movies, not even the old school ones like Blade or X-Men or Spider-Man, are that much more memorable and then the smallest of the DC movies. And just because Marvel has literally more movies, most of those movies are not anywhere good or as good as DC's movies. And the ones that are really, really good are still not better than they are at best equal, and at worst under the DC movie. Period. Point blank. Period. And if you guys if you guys really want to not leave it to opinions like this guy over here, Google the ratio of the MCU movies and the DCEU movies from when Aquaman came out, which was the last time a DCEU movie, it probably has gone up, tied up even more. If you actually ratio the DCU movies and the Marvel movies based off of their critical receptions, both fan and professional, you would see that the totality of their scores add up to an equal set of movies that are much beloved by everyone and not. If you don't want to take my word for it or his word for it, Google it for yourself. And you'll see that it is going to lean more towards DC in the overall because of their movies and the way that their movies were set up. And at best, it's going to be equal.
Well, I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree.
I guess so.
With that being said, geeks and gamers, you already know how we gotta do. We gotta thug it on out.
Sure. Thug it out.
We gotta thug it on out. Yes, sir. You already know how we do. This was Into the Qniverse. I'm Q. That's QMG. You already know how to do. You can come and catch us every Sunday. Thank you, geeks and gamers, for tuning in. This was Into the Qniverse, and we signing out. Peace.
This was all a conspiracy.
Damn, son.